Well, everyone, I wanted to go ahead and kind of do my full analysis of how the iPhone 16 has been holding up for the last 3 months. Now, I don't want to bore you with everything you probably already know. This thing's display is 6.1 inches, it's a Super Retina XDR OLED display, it has the Apple A18 chip, and it's been a very good ride nonetheless, right? I could just list these things off this piece of paper, but the big thing I would recommend you to do is that there are some highs to kind of hit on, and there are some low points to hit on as well. I would say as a whole, my consensus of the iPhone 16 is that it was a very small upgrade coming from the iPhone 15. Some of the most hyped up features of the iPhone 16 were Apple Intelligence and that new camera button. Apple Intelligence has been a slow release. There hasn't really been too many insanities that have been kind of going around with Apple Intelligence. The hype was there, but because of the improvements of the ChatGPT application and the weirdness and bugs that a lot of people are experiencing within iOS 18.2 even right now, I genuinely think the iPhone 16 sits in this weird spot where it was kind of promised to be this, new device and a really cool upgrade, but it really was not that big of an upgrade. And I'm not really even sad about it. I think this device will end up aging better just because the next iOS versions are going to be what this phone should have been released with. But I also think this device will just naturally just get more and more improved. And I think that's a very big thing to keep in mind here too. Now, the camera button was one of those things that when they first initially launched it, I thought it was going to be a really good idea. I honestly like the idea of having a dedicated camera button for you to go and take photos and videos. I love my old Sony phones that would allow me to just kind of have that type of capability. But as the months just keep getting longer, as the months just kind of keep going by, I'm just genuinely surprised about how little people really even care about how little people even care about that camera button. It's a cool feature, don't get me wrong, and I've used it a couple times, but I just end up, shaking the photo around more. I don't even end up taking a better shot in some situations. And I feel like that is somewhat of the problem that I'm personally experiencing with that type of device, for the camera button. So I tend to just turn it off. And even with Apple's latest updates, it seems like they don't even really, they're just giving you more and more ways to kind of map it to different things or just kind of turning it off entirely. Now, Apple Intelligence was that other thing, right? I think a lot of people know about Apple Intelligence now. This was supposed to be that go-to feature that was going to change a lot between the iPhone 15 and the 16. The iPhone 15 did not support Apple Intelligence, but the iPhone 16s did. And like I said, this was supposed to be that really big upgrade. But guess what ended up happening? This ended up not really being that big of an upgrade for a lot of people. And when they ended up actually looking at that particular device, a lot of people are actually kind of, wondering, was this it? Was Apple just focusing in on were they rushing this update? And that is essentially what's going on here. A lot of people feel like Apple just went through and rushed out this update. And I kind of agree with that. Right? I feel like Apple could have done a way better job here from this particular situation as well. And that's just kind of what ended up happening with this type of phone. So I personally, like I said before, I love my iPhone 16 and I think it's a really good phone, but I do still feel like Apple could have done a little bit of a better job here when it came down to the Apple Intelligence side of things, and when it came down to the actual other side of things, when it came down to this phone's the camera button. Beyond that though, I think this phone has held up very, very well. I think it's a beautiful phone, and I think it has a lot of features built inside of it as well. One of the really cool things about this type of device is that it just works. Right? I don't really have too many issues with this type of phone, and that is something that I actually genuinely love a lot about this device. I don't really have to worry about this phone just giving me random issues or random glitches. I can feel like this phone is just going to, work whenever I need it to pick up, but I would probably still say one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest pet peeves that I have with this phone is the 60 Hz display. There really isn't any situation where a phone like this should be giving us a 60 Hz display. It can be the fastest phone of all time, but it's still going to feel a little bit slower than my iPhone 14 Pro just because of that, just because of that refresh rate. So once again, and that in and of itself is one of those issues that it's not an issue, it's just a lack of a feature Apple threw on here. And I feel like that was a really big disadvantage with this type of phone. So to kind of wrap up my opinion on this phone for the last, couple of months, once again, I feel like Apple could have done a little bit of a better job here, right? They could have given us a little bit of a better display, more refined version of Apple Intelligence, and just a better version of software overall. But what we got was this phone that was a small upgrade, feels kind of like a rushed upgrade for the most part, and even the software improvements that Apple kind of threw in here, like Apple Intelligence, kind of seem like updates they just kind of had to throw in here because they were just features that they just wanted to kind of give for the stockholders, to be honest. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening in the future, but that's how the iPhone 16 has been holding up for the last 3 months or so. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.